Every day is filled with choices. You're here because you're choosing to start with a win. Get ready to be inspired, learn something new, and connect with the Win Nation.
Coming to you from Denver, Colorado, Adam Contos, CEO of RE/MAX with Start With a Win here in the virtual studio. I got producer Mark. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic.
Whoa, a little musical today, too.
That's right. It's like my own version of Hot Pocket.
Nothing like a little branding.
I want to hear him do a thing called Love by the Darkness. Can you do that one?
Come on, Mark. Let's hear
I
it.
believe in a thing called love. Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Oh, hey, we're doing great.
Well, hey, we got a special guest on with us today here, Mark. We have
Jeremy, good guy.
Yeah, Jeremy Slate, founder of the Create Your Own Life podcast. So this is kind of like this major podcast today. So, Jeremy, welcome to the show. Jeremy studies the highest performers in the world, including, I mean, you don't want to mess with this guy, the former CIA director, Super Bowl champions, Indy 500 winners. I mean, you know, Jeremy specializes in using podcasting and new media to create trust and opinion leader status. So anyhow, hey, I want to unpack kind of the world that you live in, because, you know, you have positioned yourself as kind of the go-to in your space. And I want to talk about how people can do that. So, you know, first of all, why'd you start a podcast? What led you to that?
You know, I'd like to say it was some brilliant idea, man, but like literally when I failed at all these different careers, like, you know, the first thing I jumped into after leaving teaching was network marketing, which I didn't know what that was because I'm from a small town. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire like next week. Great. So that's where I started. I went from selling there to selling life insurance to selling products online, and all these things didn't really work out. So I'm like, all right, let me start a podcast. I can't really screw that up. And that was really where it started. It was just because I needed something else to do as a creative outlet. And I'd been a huge fan for a long time, but it wasn't, you know, I had this brilliant plan that I was going to start a business and do all of that. It really was because the podcast got noticed and we had 10,000 listens in our first month that it kind of led to everything else I'm doing in my life.
And your podcast is called the Create Your Own Life podcast.
Yes.
I mean, how did you come up with a topic here? I mean, where'd you get to that? I mean, that's kind of a broad topic, right?
So I was having a conversation with my dad back in 2013. This is right after I had quit my teaching job. And my dad's somebody that, you know, like, you work at a place and you stay there for 40 years and hopefully they take care of you or whatever. So I'm telling him that I quit my job, and he's like, you're kidding me. What's wrong with you? Do you have some sort of like, you know, issue we need to talk about here? I'm like, no, Dad, I want to create my own life. And he's like, good luck with that, buddy. And I'm like, okay. And now he's one of my biggest fans around that. But that's really where the idea for the name came from, because I see life as not this static thing, right? Like not this thing that happens to you. I think so many people think it's that way, but it's what you're going to do with it and what you're going to create with it. So I like to really talk to people that have created something big. They really see opportunities in life and create opportunities in life for them. I found that for people of that caliber, adversity is a really, really big thing in their life, because it's kind of this transformative thing, right? Like it's like the furnace of the blacksmith or something like that. It really, like, once they've been through that forge, it's made them the person they needed to be on the other side. And that's one of the really big things, is they find adversity and they don't walk away or shy away from adversity. They're willing to see it, see how they can grow from that moment and really approach it that way.
How do you define what you stand for?
So the biggest thing is, you know, number one, being okay with there's some people that are going to like you and there's some people that aren't. It doesn't mean you go out there trying to upset everybody. That's not the point of it. But it's really just, you have to understand that first. The second thing is, how are you different from people that are out there? Because I find that there's so many people just doing what other people do. You know, you look at somebody like Gary Vaynerchuk. He's done an incredible job, but there's a million people out there trying to be Gary Vaynerchuk, and that's why they'll never stand out or get noticed. So unless you're going to differentiate or give people a reason to be interested in you, you're not going to be able to do that. So that's really the vital thing that a lot of people are missing, is they blend in and they promote other people because they're not standing out to promote themselves. So I think it's really, really key and important to do that before you create any content. I know for me, the process was kind of, I did a lot of interviews, I created a lot of content, and the more I did, the more I learned about myself and the more I learned about what I wanted to do. But you also have to, in some ways, Adam, have courage to just talk about what you want to talk about and be okay with some people not liking it.
But the question here, I guess, is how do you scale that impact once you've defined yourself and really blow it up? Because that's where the magic is. You can get to that point, but it's when you're like, okay, I can hit the ball out of the park. Now it's time to keep hitting home runs. How do you do that?
Honestly, what you need to really be doing is create a content production engine behind everything you're doing. 30-second video clips, 60-second video clips. Don't exceed 60 seconds because that's what they want on Instagram. But you want to really figure out how you're going to repurpose content and use it in your marketing, use it in your funnels, use it on your website. That's what, you see a lot of these different logos and stuff on a media page that show somebody you're credible. So if you're going to scale, you have to figure out how you're going to use all this stuff you've created in your own marketing, in your own branding, and in the way you're getting it out. And then in addition to that, one of the things that a lot of people miss out on is when you're appearing on a podcast as a guest, a lot of times you get to the end and you send somebody to a website, right? Like, mywebsite.com/podcast. The thing that they're not doing is there's two different pieces of code that should be on that site. One is a getemails.com code, and getemails.com is a piece of software that has a massive database of people that have opted in for different offers. And what they can do is they could take about 30% of your anonymous traffic and opt it into your list. Because the thing you got to think about is how many people end up on a website but don't opt in for anything. Well, you want to get those names and those identities. So that's step one. The other thing is also having a Facebook pixel on that page so you can have retargeting audiences. Basically, you can take everybody that's been to that page for in 30, 60, or 90 days and then run traffic at them. But if you're going to just think, okay, I was on this media placement or I was on this podcast or in this article and that's the end of it, you're not going anywhere, brother. It's about what are you going to do with it and how you're going to use this content and then how you're going to plug the holes in the sieve, right? Like, when you get that, I look at every landing page as a leaky bucket. How are you going to plug the holes in that? Capture emails this way, capture emails that way, continue to communicate to people. That's what it's all about.
One of the other things that I see people fall down on, I'd like to get your take on this, is they get to this point, they're like, okay, I've built a landing page, I've built my website, things like that. And then they just stop and hope that this is going to continue to generate audiences. Tell me about what is the importance of continuing to create content and how do you come up with ideas to do so? Does it have to be extravagant and elaborate, things like that? Where do you get your ideas?
I keep a note on my phone, and every time I come up with an idea or have a conversation with somebody, I write that down because some of those ideas are fleeting, man. You got to grab them right away. So that's another thing. But also, every single business owner should be listing every objection that they ever get. And that's what you make your content around. Like one of the biggest things we always get is like, well, how are podcasts any different than radio? So I've created so many articles about radio and how they actually find their listener numbers. And it's kind of scary that they have no idea who's listening. So when you're creating content around a lot of these different things that people are already having as objections, you're handling an objection before somebody even gets into a sales cycle with your company. And I think that's a really big thing for creating trust because any sort of media is something that should be creating that know, like, and trust factor. And that's why I think so many people get confused between PR and marketing. PR is what creates trust and that know, like, and trust factor and what gives you things so that you can market them. They're not the same thing, but they work together very well when you understand that.
Man, you're saying some good stuff. I want to continue this on the next episode where we really dive into the customer, the consumer, and unpack this a little bit more with why do they stay? Why do they leave? You down with that?
Yeah, let's do it, man. I would love to. I appreciate it, actually.
All right. Start with the win, listeners. We'll catch you on the next episode.